Howdy. Welcome to RV Fishing Chat. We've had an interesting, actually a nice day on the lake this weekend. We went out to Lake McCannon and we caught nothing, which was a little unusual, but fairly indicative of this winter. For whatever reason, the fish are really not biting this winter, and I don't know if it's because we haven't been able to fish as much, so we're not actually getting to go out on the right days. But it's been a little tough. It's been a lot tough. We've been out 3 times in a row now, and the weekend ends up being a post-frontal beautiful day for the most part. One time we got skunked. It kind of wasn't really our fault. We went not knowing that they had lowered the lake at Inks Lake, and then we went on to Llano, and the lake that we normally go to there, which is part of the Llano River, it had been drained, which pretty much ruins it for the next couple of years. So I'm really disappointed about, because we really like that lake. But to be quite honest with you, over the past few years, we had noticed a pretty good reduction in the number of fish, or the size of fish. The number of fish was there, but the size of fish seemed to have gotten smaller. It was odd. The largest fish we were catching was about 16 inches, and years prior we've caught 18, 19 inches out of there, and it's a pretty nice fish. Yet we haven't caught a big fish out of there in years, so I guess I don't want to complain too much, because I think it'll probably help that in the long run. Because what they're doing is they're going and digging the sand out of the lake. It's a little reservoir kind of thing. They're digging the sand out of the reservoir, so it'll be deeper. So once they've gotten that done, they'll fill it again, and then they'll probably, I don't know if they'll restock it or not. They might. It would be kind of nice if they put some largemouth in there, but maybe they'll just leave it for the Guadalupe. I know there are some largemouth in the river though, so they may just leave it. I don't know. All it takes is one good flood, and all the fish are all mixed up anyway. So, don't know. I really wasn't sure exactly what their plan was. We heard from one couple that were there that the lower, we knew the lower head lake had been done, and when that was done, we knew that they were going to be refilling it. And the problem is what they said, these folks said, is that they're still doing stuff in the lower pond, the lower lake, so it's kind of yeah. So anyway, we kind of got skunked that day, because we tried to go on down the river just to fish the river, but the Llano River is a real tough river to fish when it's cold. The Guadalupe bass will keep biting, but you got to find them. But the largemouth, they hunker down in the bottom of the river, and you've got to find that hole, and it's usually a specific spot. And there sometimes can only be a few largemouth for a pretty big area, and you don't find them. So it's really difficult, and I've tried all kinds of tricks to try to figure that little equation out, and must say I am no expert, because I have not figured that one out yet. But yeah, been really rough this winter trying to catch fish. I haven't caught a fish in quite a while. Not since December, I think. So a little disappointed. We even went out on Lake Bastrop. Another one of those days where it was post frontal and cold. Lake was the power plant wasn't running. The lake was cold. Fish are not used to the fish there are not used to it being cold. Power plant is really normally keeps that lake, even in the wintertime, it'll keep that lake in the mid 60s. And you can go up in the channel where the outlet for the power plant, which it's a natural gas power plant, you can go up in that outlet and it'll be 70 degrees up in there. In fact, I remember one January we were up in there and it was 75 degrees in the outlet. 75 degrees in the middle. It was like January 16th because it was tournament day. First tournament we ever did, actually. And I caught fish that day. In fact, I caught fish off the, away from the channel. It was out in the cold area. And but no, this has been really rough. I have not seen it like this for a long time. It's hard not to get discouraged, but I know that Texas fish are not used to the cold. That's a real problem. They really don't like it. They don't like it cold. They're used to the really hot weather, and we've had a lot of years of just blazing hot weather. And woohoo! But yeah, we've had a lot of blazing hot weather. The past 5-6 years. And mild winters. Last winter was really mild, and we had no trouble catching fish all winter long. But this year, it's been consistently cold, and I mean, like, we've had multiple, a week probably, not consecutively, but maybe 2 weeks already. It must be getting close. At least a week and a half of nights in the teens. And you got to understand, Texas fish don't know what ice on the surface is. They just don't know what that is. And there's certain lakes that have been collecting ice around the edges. And then, of course, they thaw out during the day because it gets up into the 30s. But at night, it drops into the teens. And I've seen rivers. I've seen our local river here. I'll cross in a bit. The water's not really moving much, but I've seen that thing solid enough to where I'm sure a squirrel or a cat could have run across it, because it looked thick. And that's just, fish don't know what that is, and I don't think the fish will die from it. Bass can handle water that's pretty chilly, but they just they're not used to it like fish up north under the ice. You can still catch bass up there. You can still catch bass down here. But the problem is when it really gets cold and they're not used to that, they go through a long period of just, I'm not going to eat. And there's going to be a lot of skinny fish coming out of this. Because they were not eating. And you can find, if you can find a spot where the water is a little warmer, for whatever reason, they might be gathering there and whatnot, but we've had a hard time with it, and the days that we go are just wrong. I mean, when you I gotta pass somebody on a little country road, but yeah, when you're out in Texas in this cold, it's weird because you think, hey, we got this really nice bright sunny day coming. It's warmer. It's in the mid to upper 60s, even around 70, 72. I mean, we were out on Lake Buchanan, which is a pretty good sized lake, and it's fairly deep in certain areas, but it's generally, I say, relatively shallow. If you get out in the channel, it'll be 50, 60 feet deep, maybe more. You know, in certain areas, I think the total depth on the lake is only like 80 feet, but the deepest part. But the lake is huge. It covers, it must be probably 30 miles long as a reservoir, and then as far as width goes, there must be certain areas where the width is mile, maybe 2 miles across. I mean, it's really wide, and I calculated it out one day, and I was really surprised at how wide it was. But it's a big lake. It actually has a greater surface area than Lake Travis. And Lake Travis, unbeknownst to a lot of people, holds a lot more water than Lake Buchanan. Not tremendously, but a significant amount. And like the difference of 2 million acre feet and 1.5 million acre feet. So Lake Travis has got a lot more water in it, but it's in a canyon. And it goes for 80 miles. When it winds back and forth, I ran the numbers once. It might even be 90. It's a long ways because the river goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So anyway, Lake Travis has some really deep areas. Lake Buchanan has some pretty good, some deep areas. But for kayak fishing, it's a little hard to get out there and find them. And now Lake Buchanan has striper, but the striper tend not to bite on winter days when it's warm and calm. And we happened to pick a day when it was perfectly calm on Lake Buchanan. It was rather unreal, surreal almost, because I've never seen it that calm on Lake Buchanan. There was places where you could get a picture of the shoreline in the water, just about, because it was so calm. And that's really unusual. I mean, this lake is known for its choppy waves. And I've been out on it sometimes when the water was just really beat up. And, whoo-wee. It's a scary lake. It's scary. There's people who've been out there in boats, full-size boats, that have just about met their maker because the waves were 3.5, 4 foot. It's kind of like up north. I've seen pictures and videos of guys out fishing on Lake St. Clair when a nor'easter's coming in or north wind is blowing or something like that. I saw one guy out in his bass boat and the waves were coming up over the bow. I'm like, dude, I am so out. No way. I am not fishing in a bass boat with the water coming up over the top. You just forget that. And he had like a 21-foot bass boat. It's like, no way, dude. And he's catching fish. He's out there riding like a surfer. It's like, dude, no way. But anyway, yeah, so I mean, it's been a rough winter. I'm hoping that we'll get some warm snaps come up. Warm snaps, listen to me. Some warm spells. Get rid of the cold snaps. But hey, you know, the cold is good. We haven't had a lot of cold for a long time, and it's been actually kind of hard on some of the vegetation. So I'm not going to complain too much. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. You know, I would love to see a lot more. I would love to see a lot more warm days, but it takes a lot of warm days in order to get the fish to brighten up in the spring. So, but the days are changing, and the days are starting to warm up a little bit. We're starting, the average trend is starting to warm, so that's good. I think we're going to start seeing spring bite coming on here pretty quick, and when that happens, you better believe that they'll be hitting hard. So it's gonna be fun. And if we have a cold summer this year, the bite will probably stay on real well all the way into summer, especially some of these lakes that are normally hot, that have been cold this winter, that didn't get warmed up. those lakes will be cooler than normal, and they'll run their good bite. They'll run spawning all the way into June, which we normally end spawn here in May or at the latest. Sometimes spawn's over by the end of April, middle to the end of April, because it just gets hot so quick. So yeah. Anyway, that's it. I'm out. Been a longer video than I expected, but I like to talk about fish, so what can I say? If you're in Texas right now and you're having trouble catching bass, you better be out on Lake Travis where they're down 60 feet or something, where they're trying to stay warm. Because if you haven't got a lake where you can get out like that or something, you're not going to catch fish this time of year. It's rough. River fishing, man, you gotta know exactly where to go. And I know where to go, but we just couldn't make it there the other day. We got to go out, find the big holes on the Llano, and then you can catch fish in the winter. And I just haven't been able to make it there, so it's 2.5 hours away. Yeah. So maybe next weekend. I don't know. We'll see. I think I got so much stuff going on in February. All right. Tight lines. Tight lines to all my fishermen. Safe travel to all our RVers. See, I got to say it that way because I always say it wrong. Safe travels and tight lines and safe travels. Whatever. Bye.